Hello YouTube, a welcome to this fine day, and today we are going to have a look at Rusko Clockmaker in Historic Brawl. This deck aims to win by using the drain ability on the commander and storming through the deck and just draining out the opponent. So first and foremost, the commander Rusko Clockmaker, a 2 blue-black 3/3 legendary creature, human artificer, and he does two things. First, when Rusko enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Midnight Clock onto the battlefield. So this is not a token, this is an actual card, so it can get bounced to your hand, then you actually have it in your hand. And then second, when you cast a non-creature spell, put an hour counter on each permanent you control named Midnight Clock, and each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And to fully explain the commander, a Midnight Clock is a 3-mana artifact that taps for a blue. For 3 mana you can put an hour counter on Midnight Clock, and when it reaches 12 hour counters, you get to shuffle back your graveyard and your hand into your library and draw 7 again, and you get a hour counter each upkeep. So yeah, this is Rusko, and currently at the time of this recording, I'm a little bit late to the party, and he is terrorizing the queue. He is everywhere, and I probably have to cut a lot of games due to concessions, like instant concessions by the opponents. So Rusko basically wants you to play a bunch of cheap cards, dump out your hand, get a bunch of hour counters on your Midnight Clocks, crack the Midnight Clock, then draw 7 again, play again, and then in between you're going to use blink effects, right? Things like Planar Incursion, exile creature, and then it enters again. Same with like Essence Flux, right? So you play a bunch of these cards that just exile your commander and replay him and get another clock. One of the best ways to do that, and an extremely insane card in the deck, is Displacer Kitten, because now not only do you get a counter on each clock whenever you cast a non-creature, you also just get another clock. So you basically, if you play like Displacer Kitten and 3-4 non-creatures, you basically just win on the spot almost, right? And the other card that is just really insane in the deck is Paradox Engine, where whenever we cast a spell, now we untap all our clocks, which doesn't seem that great. First, like, okay, we have a bunch of mana, but we can actually sink all of that mana into our Midnight Clocks again, drawing 7 and going on and like on and on and on, doing this again until the opponent is completely drained out. Also, specifically about this version, we're going to test a few cards, namely Ertai Resurrected and Oracle of the Alpha. I'm pretty sure that Oracle of the Alpha is decent in this deck, and Ertai Resurrected is also a card that I've heard great things about. So the reason why Oracle of the Alpha, in my opinion, is just generally not a good card in Historic Brawl is that the front side, like, just a 3-mana 2/3 flyer is not great, but this specific deck can actually abuse all the cards you put into your deck, because you just draw again, and now you have access to Ancestral Recall, that's just 1-mana draw 3, or Time Walk 2-mana Exoturn in your deck, right? And just having those permanently in your deck is so great, because now whenever you reshuffle, your Grim Tutor and your Solve the Equation effectively become 5 mana, take an extra turn, which is insane, right? As opposed to 8 mana with Time Warp. We're not running all the extra turns. We've cut, in order to make space for the Ertai Resurrected and Oracle, we've cut Blur, a 3-mana card that just blinks something and draws a card, and Elrond's Epiphany, 7-mana extra turn. The reason why I've cut those is because Blur was a bit too expensive to be useful, because one of the strengths of Rusko is Rusko enters, makes a clock immediately, right? And then you just have this 1 mana, and you can just use miscasts, opt, fading hopes, and all that interaction. Or like if you play him on 5 mana, now you have 2 mana up, right? But it's really hard to justify playing Rusko that late in the game unless you have counter magic up, right? So like, yeah, and like if it's a bit tough to keep up 3 mana with Rusko. And yeah, we play all a lot of cheap cantrips effectively, Mishra's Baubles, Chromatic Star, just to like cantrip, keep our hand full with cheap cards, and then try to go off that way. That is effectively the deck. Hope you will enjoy the video. Also, like the video if you want to, or not. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I do have a Discord that is very active and where I post all my updated deck lists, and you should definitely check that out. So yeah, let's do this. We are ready to play against Joda Archmage Eternal. And I believe this is not a great hand. I mean, we have Swan Song, but we need more black mana. This Grim Tutor is like super uncastable. We can do better. And I would say this qualifies as better. Beautiful. I think this is the case. Glasspool Mimic is an interesting card in this deck where if you draw it later, like with the draw 7, it's just effectively another clock because you played for 3 mana and then you're just getting another clock by copying a commander and letting one of them die to the legend rule. So being on the draw here makes this much harder than being on play, because now we have to think if we want to keep up Counterspell or just consider hard. Given that we have a Grim Tutor, I think it is safe to say that we can just take it, like we can just dig aggressively here and just counter whatever they cast for Chivo's Joda, because I don't think they have too threatening things that we need to counter in a spot like this. That being said, if they don't have a white source, they can't cast a commander anyways. So they need untapped white here. And they don't have untapped white. See? We really got rewarded. And I think we can just take this slow, play another rock, given that we have the Word of Invention also in hand, and just hold up Counterspell. Just going to Counterspell the Joda. And one great thing about Rusko is that if Rusko gets killed, you just get to play him again next turn if you have a land drop, because he ramps himself effectively. Chromatic Sphere, and just pass the turn. So let's see here. Rusko dies, that is completely fine. Yep. And if they... So this is... Yeah, this is exactly enough mana to put a Paradox Engine into play next turn. So what we can do here is we just pass the turn. If they go for the commander, just let it happen. I mean, not that we can do anything about that anyways. And then... Oh yeah, Chromatic Orrery is fine. Sure. And if they tap out here, I would be thrilled. Doesn't seem like they do though. You can adapt at instant speed, by the way. So maybe that's what they're holding up. Word of Invention. Just attempt to put Paradox Engine into play. Then we can go up in mana by casting the commander and then a Grim Tutor, which is pretty great. Okay, Engine is in play. And now we're going to get absolutely crazy here. So let's put our rocks into play first, starting with the commander. Yep. And now... Yeah, that is good game, opponent, indeed. Oracle of the Alpha. Yep. Shuffle all these cool exoturns in our deck. Time Warp. And we could have also taken a Displacer Kitten line there, but I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things, to be perfectly honest. Grim Tutor fetches What do you fetch, Grim Tutor? Time Twister? I mean, yeah, sure. Let's just Time Twist. Although... No, that was bad. That was like literally the only bad card here, because they just have 5 mana up, right? So like, if I just Time Twister here, they could just draw into interactions. So Time Twister was like basically a really bad line. So what we should have done here was just Rusko and then Grim Tutor into Displacer Kitten, but then we didn't have... Yeah, and then we still had a Time Warp in hand to go even up in mana. Or just a Narset. Solve the equation there as an in-between step would have also been a nice way to do this. Just solve the equation, solve the equation as a ritual, and then into Ancestral Recall or Time Walk, and then we just have so many extra turns lined up. We are just going to kill the opponent here. GG. We are ready to play against Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma. This is an interesting hand. It's a very linear one. On the play, so it's turn 4 Rusko, turn 5 Engine, and then Chromatic Sphere to untap. And then we still only have 1 rock. Seems a bit slow, especially if they play turn 2 Dork, turn 3 Commander, and then turn 4. They represent around turn 5 lethal. So we need to lethal them on our turn 5, and this is just not fast enough, so we need meaningful interaction or more speed. I like the Brainstorm Salon division here in order to get there. And like just Cold Steelheart being a ramp piece, being able to put Rusko 1 turn earlier into play is very relevant. We can also just Brainstorm, attack with Oracle of the Alpha, scry a card away that we just put there. Although, not sure. I think we want to play the Salon division here tapped just to be extra safe on land drops. Yeah, there is the ramp that we talked about, right? Kind of punished for playing out the visions, but it's fine. We are kind of on a low land count in this deck, by the way, which is why I'm so aggressively playing these as actual lands. So, one thing to note, if you're going off with Engine and only have clocks, you're only producing blue, but you can also draw into black spells, which is why, if we have the choice, we're basically always trying to name black with Cold Steelheart, unless it's actually messes up your mana early. You have to play blue, right? But yeah, you really want to name black with this. And this Brainstorm, we could just cast, we could also just not cast. You know, next turn we are likely going to just, for tempo, Khan's Temporal Sundering, their commander. Okay, that is fine. So they're going to specialize. Yep. I think I want to dig for an out here for this Jaheira, although we can also just buy ourselves a good old turn here by bouncing this. Could have also bounced our own Rusko in order to play Rusko again, create another clock. That was likely the better play here. So now they play Jaheira, specialize, and kill the clock. So we could just Brainstorm here. Let's do that. So put on library, put on library. We're going to draw one of them, scry the other one away, and just going to copy Rusko and keep around the copy, so we send our commander back to the command zone in order to be able to create another clock here. And then we're going to be able to scry one of these lands away. And we're in a really commanding position, and we're basically forcing them right now into playing and specializing this Jaheira. Oh, and they're not going for it? Oh, they have more interaction here. Yeah, and now... Yeah, all these clocks, see? So good, so good. Celestis. Attack with both. And I don't think we want to draw the land. I'd rather miss my land drop in order to draw an impactful spell here. And keep this again, put it into command zone, create another clock. Great. And I'm doing this specifically because even if they have a removal spell, like mono green just doesn't have a lot of removal spells, then we can just play Rusko again from the command zone. So they're going to destroy the clock here with 4 counters, I presume. No, they're still not doing that. If they have Crater of Behemoth, we're kind of in trouble, but oh wow, yeah, and they just got punished. They just really got punished. We could also just... Oh, this is so dangerous. So we could just play Rusko. Then a permanent left the battlefield because of the legend rule, and then just fatal push their draw engine to be safe. Right? We could also just say, hey, you can't kill me next turn. And if they can't kill us next turn, I believe this right now... it's not even enough, right? 2, 2, 7, 8... Yeah, we can't even crack the clock next turn. So what does that mean? The Jaheira, I believe we have to take them off the draw engine, but if, like, we're so dead anyways if these cards here are good, which is really bad for us. Let's swing in. Let's see what's on top actually. Mystical Dispute, we definitely don't need that. And we're not attacking with this Rusko purely because we plan on keeping this Rusko, right? Put it to command zone. And now we have a choice. Oh no, we have 8, right? So we could pass the turn, fatal push in response, but then they just gotta draw a million cards. I don't think I'm comfortable letting them drawing this many cards here. Obviously a Languish would just be insane, but if we get a Tutor, we just likely go for the win. Do we have a win though if we have a Tutor? Well, that's a scary card. It's big. It does kill. Oh, that's unfortunate. Auto tapper. So what happened there is the incubation druid tapped itself, so now it doesn't... Oh yeah, that's just so unfortunate. Yep, they can't attack. And they have to use this Jaheira, otherwise they have to specialize and destroy an artifact. Yeah. And they don't. So that means we get to crack the clock here. Which is just absolutely insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Leaving me with 3 mana open. I think we are willing to do that because we still have a land drop at that point. Clock. 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 Draw 7. And that if we draw Languish, it's just so good here. Oh wow, that's just kind of not hot. Black Lotus. Dark Ritual. So, crack for... Yeah, we're not going to play the land in case we... Let's just not use the Black Lotus for now, right? Oh, we have to anyways, because... Yeah, so we kind of have to use the land here. 1, 2... We're not dead on board here, right? Yeah, beautiful. So, the reason why you hold off on a land drop is in case you get Inventor's Fair or... what's it called? Inventor's Fair or... Nyx, Shrine to Nykthos. So you die, that's fine. Okay. And we're not going to crack that midnight clock at their end step. We maybe want to crack it in response to this Jaheira specializing. 1, 2, yep, swinging, that's fine, that's fine. Do we want to shuffle Oracle of the Alpha back into our deck or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? Very interesting spot. Don't think we want to... Like, we need very specific answers in this kind of spot, and we don't want to draw Oracle. Okay, so we go down to 1. That is perfectly fine. And we don't crack the clock here, because we want to let it crack in our upkeep, so we can float this 1 mana, which is very, very relevant. So, board wipe would be pretty great. There is set board wipe. So now we are going to use this. Remove 3 counters from Yorvo, I believe. Yep. Yep, beautiful. And then... very interesting. So we have a blocker for this Incubation Druid in the form of our Guardian Idol. Nice. So let's swing it first. Let's see what's on top. And then we could also just draw it with the Chromatic Sphere in this spot. That's a Dark Ritual. So Chromatic Sphere becomes +1 mana. What can we do with +1 mana? Is that enough to... 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. No. We can't Rusko. Is that still... So Rusko and Languish. We obviously have to Languish, otherwise we die. Although I kind of like the Dark Ritual. Because we're going to reshuffle with this Midnight Clock anyways. So now... You crack for black, draw, play you. I believe we want a Glasspool Mimic here in order to get more power 9 into our deck, and then we Languish. Right? Beautiful. And then we could just use the Celestis, but then we're dead to this Incubation Druid attack. So now we hold up Negate and chump block with the Guardian Idol. And also, if we chump block with the Guardian Idol, we are able to put a counter on Midnight Clock. So, yeah, that is pretty good. Let's see. We would have obviously preferred something like a... Well, would we have preferred Reverse Rebuke here? Because this way their cards are gone for good, whereas with Reverse Rebuke they would have just had a full board here right now, and like they just play the commander, we draw 7 there. It's pretty likely that we just draw double removal, right? Oh, that's a... Yeah, we can't let that resolve. That's likely a haste creature. So now, they're going to attack, we're going to chump. So this means we lost 3 mana on our turn, because now we have to put 1 more counter on the clock. But we could also just Rusko and chump with Rusko, right? And we don't even have to do that, because we're going to crack the clock in their turn, and then we could also just get a removal spell here. So yeah, that's pretty huge. We could... Oh, we can just gain 2 life. No, just 1 life, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, let's just crack the clock on their turn. And we got something at instant speed to remove the incubation druid. So that is likely going to be GG from this spot. Yep. Although... no, even Questing Beast doesn't do it, because then we just get to Paradox Engine and play Rusko again. I should have waited for their attack, but it's fine. They don't have a hand here in this spot. So we're going to put a counter on this clock, as it is our only one right now. And let's see, engine into Black Lotus, and they give it up. So our sequencing here would have been to... So we obviously play the Brainstorm, right? The question is, we are likely going to also spam Celestis with our mana instead of Midnight Clock, because like we're going to get there with a Midnight Clock anyways. So we're going to maximize our looks at good cards with the Celestis here, and that's our mana sink. And then we're likely go just to storm out through our entire deck. GG. We are ready to play against the mirror match, Rusko Clockmaker. And in the mirror, Mystical Dispute is great. In the mirror, we want to be on the play, which is, you know, currently not the case. So, bad cards in the mirror match. Oracle of the Alpha, Ruse Ryuk, Barrel's Expertise, Siren Ruse, because all of these assume in one form or another that our commander's on the field, or like we are kind of ahead, right, or just have the time to do so, which we don't. Barrel's Expertise, by the way, you target your commander as one of the targets, send it to a hand, and they're just cast it for free again to get on the clock. If they're just like, hey, I just jam my commander, I'm on the play, I'm doing this, then Mystical Dispute will get them. Land is a great draw, but this is a sketchy keep, I'm not sure. Oh, this makes me really happy that we have this keep. Okay, Celestis. Now we don't have double counterspell up, which is kind of troublesome, because they have could have counter magic here as well. And yeah, this is the cost of playing Nykthos in your mana base. Let's just Tail's End versus Disdain. I think Tail's End is the worst one here. We could Tail's End a clock, but with this many counterspells, we don't want a clock to be put onto the battlefield ever anyways. And they missed the land drop, which is devastating for them. If they have a kill spell, that is fine. We got our clock into play, and if they have a Dark Ritual to play their Rusko right now, we have a Mystical Dispute as backup. Can a bank buster, that's fine. We don't care about this at all. Let's swing it. And this returns artifacts, right? So we could, yeah, we kind of want to bounce these for tempo and then just counter their counter spell. It's just like, we don't need to get fancy, because if they just have counter magic and just like more like we can just get blown out here, and I don't like that. So what I'm going to do instead is just Oracle of the Alpha and still just hold up double counter magic for the commander, as well as protection for our commander. If they point a kill spell at our Rusko, we can just Siren's Ruse in response. And also, we don't want to Siren's Ruse immediately necessarily, because like we don't get too much benefit out of 2 clocks triggering just exactly one after another. Like, we kind of want to have a slight delay on them in some cases, where that allows us to dump our hand, right? We use the more expensive counterspell and more niche one because, you know, they're not going to use a lot. I did not use Siren's Ruse here before. Like, I could have done that, get a clock and then counter, but that would have been blown out by Pact of Negation. And that is exactly what we played around here. Impulse, do we want that? I feel like we kind of do. And let's just get mana. Like, honestly, this is just a really good time to Skyclave, because the punishing play for this is for them to have Reverse Rebuke, but then they just tap out and we can just play everything again, right? And we still have protection against Dark Ritual with this Mystical Dispute, if they don't have Pact, right? In this kind of spot, we're just really, really far ahead, and yeah, just all this additional mana is great. Now I'm going to attempt a blink on Rusko. Return, return, return. And we just have backup. If they kill our commander in response, we're just going to Siren's Ruse. If they Archmage's Charm here, we're just going to let it happen. That is fine, I think. Have we made our land drop yet? No, we haven't. Should we? I think we should. And then this is as good time as any to Impulse, because we could also just get a counterspell. Yeah, this is the exact land we're looking for. Also just rewards us for kicking the Skyclave Relic. Great. And I think this is as good of a time as any to... Oh, no. So, if we Siren's Ruse here, we reshuffle the Mystical Dispute. What we can do instead is Siren's Ruse. In response to the Siren's Ruse, the clock will trigger. And then in response to... yeah, so this is exactly what we're going to do. We could do the Mystical Dispute in response to the draw trigger, but then we're just going to Mystical Dispute here. So the consideration here was, do we cast Mystical Dispute in response to the trigger being put on the clock, or do we cast Mystical Dispute in response to the 12 counter being put on the clock and a draw 7? And the difference there is if we cast Mystical Dispute as our last card and the counter is put on it, the cards are reshuffled before Mystical Dispute is hitting the graveyard, right? So we don't have a chance to draw it again. Whereas if we do it in response to the draw trigger, we can draw Mystical Dispute here again. So yeah, I think looking at this stack right now, I think it was better to let the trigger resolve and then Mystical Dispute, because we would have actually liked to draw Mystical Dispute here again in the spot. Yeah, so that was a slight inaccuracy, but GG. We are done with the games. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did, and this is Rusko Clockmaker in Historic Brawl. So, this deck is really strong, right? This is a top contender. It is not the best deck in the format, definitely not, right? There are still stronger decks, but it is a really, really strong option. The reason why currently a lot of people concede to the deck, by the way, I believe we played 3 games, and I've cut 4 games due to concessions, like just instant concede on turn 1, right? The reason why people concede is he is not tiered correctly. The way the queue works in Historic Brawl is you're matched against similar power level decks, and a lot of the a lot of consideration there is put into the commander, right? So if you play a bad commander, you're likely going to play against other bad commanders, and Rusko is matched against other commanders that are really not equipped to deal with Rusko. And this is why you've seen insane win rates at this point with the deck. I believe I'm at 92% win rate over 100 games almost, or something like that. It's just silly. Anyways, so this deck is really strong. If it gets re-tiered, it is still a really strong deck, but you will have better competition, which I think is great. As for the deck itself, construction-wise, we got to test Oracle of the Alpha. Was okay, nothing special, but it also wasn't bad. I think these games showed kind of the floor of Oracle of the Alpha, and I'm satisfied with like the worst case scenario, or like not a great case. And honestly, if we just get like Time Twister, Ancestral Recall there, it would have been absolutely crazy. So I like Oracle of the Alpha. They didn't get to play Airtide Resurrected, which is kind of sad, but it would have been nice in a few spots with a few blink spells, so I can see it. If Airtide doesn't work out, I would be willing to test Bolas' Citadel here in this deck. The Bolas' Citadel I've also heard great things about, but you know, what do we cut? Because we need a critical mass of just 1-drops and just like cheap cards. Like anything up to 2 is like just considered cheap for this deck, because if you have a Relic of Legends and a Displacer Kitten in play, so now you play a non-creature, you tap your commander for mana with the Relic of Legends, you tap the clock for mana that you get from the commander, and then you play something, and then you effectively get 2 mana per spell cast back, which is really, really good. It is really, really good. Yeah, that's kind of the gist here. But like, we can't really afford to play too many things at 3 mana and up, so I would like to cut something from there. We kind of like Skyclave Relic, Relic of Legends, War of Invention. We need a critical mass of rocks to just make Paradox Engine decent, where like while Rusko does make clocks, we still just need this critical mass of rocks, because, you know, we are a Paradox Engine deck, and then the rest is like, yeah, we don't want to die to aggro, so we play Languish and Whelming Wave. We want to have meaningful interaction, so we play Baleful Mastery, right? And like, what to cut? What to cut? We're already down at, I believe, 36 lands, not including the 3 dual face lands, right? Yeah, Salon Division, Glasspool Mimic, and Seagate Restoration. So yeah, lots of small optimizations to be had and that we can have in this deck. We also did a bunch of theory crafting on this list in my Discord, link in the description, if you want to check that out. If you want to play this deck on a budget though, here is what you can cut and here is what you need. So you need cheap spells. Obviously, like Thoughtseizes, Inquisitions are just perfect. You can just throw them out even if the opponent doesn't have anything in hand, right? Just 1 mana, trigger your clocks. Like cards like these, Dark Rituals, are just great. I don't think you need their attire, right? I have lived long enough without it. Same goes for Oracle of the Alpha. I know some people will say, hey, it's the best card in the deck. It's definitely not. The cards that you really do want here, though, are the cards that could just go absolutely crazy. And honestly, I kind of think you want a Midnight Clock in the deck that puts additional counters on Midnight Clocks, right? So, I think these are like the most important cards, because Time Warp is the only extra turn effect that doesn't exile itself. Well, unless you get a Time Walk from Oracle of the Alpha. But yet, you really want the ability to shuffle an extra turn back into your deck, which is why Time Warp is so good, right? Paradox Engine, War of Invention, grabbing Paradox Engine. War of Invention, I will talk about that in a bit, right? Like Midnight Clock, good card. Tutor, and Displacer Kitten is the other card, just goes absolutely crazy. War of Invention is traditionally a card that has a pretty bad floor, in that if you're mostly using this in Historic Ball just to grab Engine, right? You play, if you have Engine in your deck, you play War. If you don't have Engine in your deck, for the most time you're not going to play Whir. But the floor here is surprisingly high in that we can just cast this for triple blue in a control match and just grab a Mox Amber, or just cycle it away for by tutoring with for a Mishra's Bauble, right? It's like, against control, this deck card is less dead than in other Paradox Engine decks. Yeah, then you want some form of board wipes. I would recommend 2 board wipes, 3, like kind of Languish, Whelming Wave, Barol's Expertise, and River's Rebuke is the way we deal with large boards. So like, yeah, 3 board wipes. I would add a couple more rocks. Is fine. You want good counter magic, but like, you can't just go with slightly worse counter magic, as counter magics are your worst actual spells to draw into during your storm turns, because it is hard to utilize them. What you want to do is, like, if you have a Paradox Engine and a Displacer Kitten, for example, you just draw 7 and then just, in response to casting a spell, want to counter it with as many counter spells in your hand as possible, just to trigger everything in response again and again and again and again. And yeah, that is basically how you do that. Removal, like, the Dark Ritual is so good, right? Like, honestly, I think Swan Song is almost in the must-have category, purely because you played Rusko on curve, have 1 blue open, and now you have Swan Song up, and that is just so amazing. Which is like, these are really great as well, miscasts, so, great cards in this deck. And then for the mana base, you could just play Islands, Island Swamps and be fine. And then the additional mana fixing is basically here to support the 2 colorless lands, right? Where if you play Inventor's Fair and Nykthos, which is such a low land count, you really feel it, especially in a deck that like wants to play double black, triple blue. Like, you really feel the colorless in certain spots. But like, these cards are so good when you can use them, like this just tutors for Paradox Engine, and your clocks are adding to the devotion, which is why you sometimes tap this for 8 mana, like just for 8 blue, right? So that's amazing. But like, all of these mana fixers you don't need if you don't run these. Just run whatever fixing you have here. Yeah, these are the most important cards in my opinion. And then, you know, if you have them, these as well. Yeah, I believe that is the deck. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.